Hey, what's up, team? This is Eddie Gray. I wanted to give a shout out to Maverick792. In the comments section, he asked me to make a video about mixing and how to create separation within the context of a mix. Now, you guys know that I love mixing. You know that producing is what I love to do. So let's get right into it. Let's start with the quote. In film, the surface is the screen. In paintings, it's the canvas. And in music, it's the stereo field. So in a lot of ways, the objective when you're a mixing engineer, a producer, is to fill out the stereo spectrum. So what do I mean by that? Well, when you look at your speakers, you have one on the left and one on the right. If you're wearing headphones, then you've got one can on your left and one can on your right ear, right? Doesn't matter if they're earbuds or not. And really what we're creating here is what's called the apparent placement of sounds in a stereo image. In other words, there's only two speakers, but we're creating a dimension, 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional. We're creating space. Think top to bottom, front to back, left to right, right? All of these concepts, near and far, these are things that we need to create in order to start creating separation. Let me elaborate a little bit further. Mixing in a nutshell is really, number one, the distribution of frequencies. And it seems to be that the higher frequencies seem to be on top and the lower frequencies seem to be at the bottom. After that, we have to create perspective. And that goes back to this concept of front to back, left, right, up and down. This is merely an illusion because we're creating contrast, right? We're giving the impression that something has depth, 3-dimensional space. If everything has reverb on it, then there won't be anything dry for that ambient sound to stand on. So everything will just sound wet. There'll be no contrast, and hence you won't hear the effect of the reverb. It won't be effective. So we're trying to create contrast here, and it's a little bit tricky, but in this channel, I'm going to do my best to help you guys out. So again, we're talking about the apparent placement of the stereo image. We're talking about mixing. We're talking about the distribution of frequencies, and we're talking about perspective. On top of that, we also want to create tonal balance. We don't want a song that has just a bunch of highs or a bunch of lows. We somehow have to create a full-bodied song with subs, lows, mids, highs, and then air, right? 10, 20K, 30K. And that essentially is going to create a dimensional space. When you look at this diagram here, right? Some things are bigger than others, some things are smaller. They're all different colors. You can see some things are closer to you, some things are further away. This is the illusion that we're trying to create. And all of this is taking place within the frequency spectrum, 20 hertz all the way up to 20K. And so if you want to start creating separation, you have to start thinking about contrast and allocating the appropriate frequencies to the appropriate instruments. So this is a song here that I wrote for the last show that I did. And when you listen, let's listen for all of the different registers. So like the first instrument's going to come in and it's going to be in a certain register. Then the next thing will come in and there might be some crossover. And then you'll hear something that's low, something that's high, and just listen for the contrast. Here we go. right, so when you take a listen to that, you're able to hear how everything has been accounted for. The drums are sitting in a certain space, the piano's doing its thing, right? Everything kind of has its own place within the context of a mix. It's like watching a movie, right? Everybody's got their role. Some are more important than the others. Some are speaking roles, some are not. But still, it creates this perfect picture. So if you're trying to create separation, my first suggestion is that you start with a basic static mix. You essentially go into the mixer and you just go track by track and you start to objectively take a step back and make decisions about how loud do you want something to be. For example, in the context of this song, I knew something was going to have to drive the song forward. There's no like main melody per se. It's very rhythmic in nature. The piano is kind of the most melodic thing. So I knew I was going to have a driver, and I picked the bass for that. So listen to this sub bass here. So the idea is to allocate the frequencies accordingly. You start doing that, you start creating separation. So what do we cover? We've talked about a static mix, making sure all the volume levels are set front to back. Some things are going to be closer, some things are going to be farther. Then you want to work on panning left and right. If you want to see more content on that, just give me a shout on the comments and I'll make another video about panning. But for the frequency distribution, I highly recommend you guys get this plugin called Span Plus. I believe there's a free version. Shout out to Voxango, one of my sponsors. What this plugin allows you to do is it allows you to look at all of the different groups or instruments and specify where they sit in the frequency. So on every single group, I've inserted an instance of Span Plus, and we're going to look and analyze this objectively so we can make a better decision for this song. Now, bear in mind, once this is all said and done, I might need to add instrumentation. I might need to mix this differently, right? It doesn't mean that the song is done. It just means that you might need to add something or take away. The instance of Span on the right is on the master channel, and then I've added Span on every single group so we can analyze where they sit in the frequency spectrum. Let me loop a section. Okay, so let's analyze the frequencies. I'm going to solo the drums, and let's see where they're coming in. They're colored red on the spectrogram. Okay, cool. And now let's put that in tandem with the bass, because usually that's, the first thing that you have to mix. They're sitting in a similar place, but the bass is louder, so it's taking precedence. So this may not be a big problem here. If you wanted to make sure and clean it up nicely, you could sidechain that, and then both of those are going to work a little bit tighter together. Here, let's start adding another element. Let me add the miscellaneous tab. This is where I have like the guitar and bells and things like that. You can see that the green has no effect whatsoever on the bass and on the drums. Same for the strings. Check it out. But because the strings and the miscellaneous share similar frequency content, I suggest that we do something to the strings and we move them out the way. Here, check it out. So that right there is going to definitely muddy up the waters and make things just sound a little bit messy. So one of the techniques that I like to use is I like to move the strings out of the way. I like to make sure that they are sitting on the sides of the speakers, right? We're talking about the apparent placement of the stereo image. I'm going to add a free plugin called Wider by Infected Mushroom and just move these away from the center and out to the sides. And even though they now share the same frequency content, because I've moved them away in a different space, they can coexist. So that's one technique you can use. I could have also used unmasking. If you want to see a video about that, go ahead and let me know in the comments. But the idea is to move things out of the way. So let's go over all this again. Apparent placement of the stereo image. We have to allocate our frequencies. We have to play with perspective and contrast. When we do that, we create tonal balance. And that, my friends, is going to create an awesome production where everything feels good from top to bottom and people are accepting your music into libraries. Fans are reacting to what you're doing, and you guys are taking your music to the next level. If you enjoyed this video, please comment, subscribe, share it everywhere. I appreciate the support. I'm here with you. Let's keep fighting together. Let's keep learning together, and let's take over this industry. Keep your frequency high.